Alrighty, welcome back everyone to another Banish Zone event. I am your host today. My name is Rav, otherwise known as Rarvin. We're here with the Banish Zone Summoner Skirmish for December, kicking it off pretty much for end of the year, getting ready to start the new year. And we have a couple of interesting decks to start off on the stream. We have John over on Leona, which is a deck I haven't seen in a hot minute. And then we have Tiny Chad on Jinx. So we're going to go ahead and start off with a very unique matchup and pairing of decks. One that most people don't usually see too much on stream. So it's going to be really fun to watch some more of the unique decks play out. Over here, we do have, it looks like Tiny Chad is going to go ahead and start with Zon Warrens. And then we're going to have John starting with looks like the Monastery. And I'll probably just go ahead and draw the opening hands and get ready. But thank you all for joining me here for another fun event. And I hope you all enjoy as we go along. We do have, looks like 24 players to launch today's event. So we are going to go ahead to do a top cut afterwards as they play for that regional qualifier bye for round number one. But we did an opening pass, and it looks like we're going to go ahead and have Tiny Chad go ahead and start off with the Traveling Merchant, by one of the better cards that's going to come out of Chaos as a whole. Especially if you have, especially on ones, I imagine it's going to be on that Scrap Heap game plan where you go ahead and discard a Scrap Heap and pretty much draw two cards off these triggers. And we do have the Leona starting off over from John's side. Instead of playing it from the champion zone, decided to go ahead and play it out from their hand. Pretty much try and set up as much as they can here. And now we have a debate whether Traveling Merchant is going to go ahead and take one of these battlefields. Now, the main thing here, depending on what stand, we do have the one Scrap Heap, so you can take the gamble. You can do the gamble here, move Traveling Merchant, discard Scrap Heap, draw two, maybe hit another Scrap Heap to go ahead and discard for the Zomwarns. And that's what we're going to see. We're going to go ahead and see the Scrap Heap discarded, draw one for the discarded Scrap Heap, draw one over the Traveling Merchant. We're going to go ahead and take the Conquer, going up to 1 point for Jinx, and then we're going to go ahead and get the discard draw of the extra Traveling Merchant. I did happen to notice though in Chad's hand, we do have the Vayne sitting up pretty. Vayne is a really nice card. Vayne gets to go ahead and come on in for 5 if your opponent conquers sort of battlefield. And trade off the rip, we're going to see that Falling Star coming down, targeting Leona, deal 6 damage with John tapped out. No way to really save that Leona, even though we'd have a couple cards in hand that could have helped later on. But go ahead and pretty much set John behind a couple of turns here and set up with the Noxus Hopeful, which is going to be pretty much a good unit that's going to sit on these battlefields for pretty much a long amount of time if John's not able to find something. Because it looks like this hand is a little sort of behind. Thankfully, we do have the Clockwork Keeper, which I imagine we're going to end up paying them when the draw card possibly. I mean, our hand is looking like double Rune Prison, a Discipline, looks like a Defy, and we're going to go ahead and set up the Spirit Refuge as well to go ahead. If it gets a buff counter, it gets to go ahead and gain Deflect, and that's going to come on down with the recycle cost. And we're not going to, and pretty much just try and set up for some big turns with this Clockwork Keeper, it seems. Let's go ahead and untap back over the Chad. Chad's going to go ahead and gain their points. I'm going to be up to a total of 2 now. Channel our 2 runes. Now let's see what's off the top. Usually Jinx likes to play a little more of a discard heavy hand. And oh, there is another Falling Star, but yeah, we have no way to save it actually. If Chad pulls a trigger on this Falling Star, it will kill the Clockwork Keeper, setting behind John back again. And the fact that Defy can't hit it because it is a 2 cost with 2 power needed. So Defy only hits anything that requires 4 or less energy and requires 1 or less runes to be recycled. So Falling Star can come through here and hit this Clockwork Keeper, taking it off the board if he decides to. But the downside, you will have to pay 3 because of the buff counter on Clockwork Keeper. You do have to, it now earns Deflect. But looking at the hand, what do we have? We have a Pouty Poro over on Chad's side. I see the Falling Star, I see the Vayne, I see a Ride the Winds, and I see, is that Darius as the last card? I'm not sure what the last card is. If he pulls the trigger here and to get rid of this Clockwork Keeper to set John back would be huge. We could set up into Eternity where we go ahead and set up with a Pouty Poro, try and get cards out of our hand, pretty much to try and set up for the Jinx Legend ability, where if you have one of the last cards in the hand at the beginning of your bidding phase, you get to go ahead and draw a card. So I think that's sort of the bait here, trying to figure out what exactly is the best line. I mean, personally, I think it's going to be this Falling Star. There's no way you can't just take this, especially with Jinx has the issue later on, and Leona really wants to try and set up for big units that sit on these battlefields with a lot of different reaction spells. Like, you got to keep Leona off of units as much as possible and just try and dominate the board that way. And that's exactly what we're going to see. We'll go ahead and see the 2 paid for the Falling Star, and it looks like we go ahead and float the rune to pay for the 3rd cost because of Clockwork Keeper having Deflect due to the Spirit's Refuge. But that's going to go ahead and come on down, targeting Clockwork Keeper. Defy, we're reading Defy, but sadly Defy does not hit it. And Discipline does cost 2. We have nothing to keep this Clockwork Keeper alive. He's going to go ahead and jump off the battlefield now, as Chad's going to go ahead and hold both these three. Going to go into the next turn now, setting up with a Pouty Poro, try and get that card count down a little bit and pass turn. And thankfully, John does end up drawing a Clockwork Keeper to try and reset up another unit onto the battlefield with a little bit reactions, or he can even set up again the Leona to try and get into a bigger unit. And that's exactly what I think we're going to do. We're going to play the Leona down, set on up here. We have a Dispel, we have the Defy to keep her alive a couple different ways. So we can set up into a bigger turn, and then Leona can come in with this attack stun to get a buff counter and set up some bigger turns. Oh, we actually going to go shields down here. So Clockwork Keeper is going to go ahead and B-tap shields down, trying to think, there's no way John, Chad has the third falling star, right? There's no way anything could happen in this case to this Leona. I mean, they're down to 4 runes. There's absolutely no way. So we're gonna go ahead and draw, and it is going to be a Vi. So we're going to have the Vi off the top. Oh, it looks like the last card was a Draven. So we have a Vi, we have a Vayne, we have our Rhydwins, and we do have a Draven in hand. We're going to go to hold both points now. We are going to go ahead and go up to 5 points. Move back the Traveling Merchant to discard a Draven. Interesting. I guess trying to build a graveyard. You could do the Vi Rhydwin combo. No different than if people are interested in, say, like those Annie deck lists. So it looks like we're going to set up. Sadly, ended up drawing that Flame Chompers a little bit late. I think that would have been the way better discard trigger than the Draven. But, sometimes that's how it works out. We're going to move back Noxus Hopeful here as we're at 5, try and retake these battlefields a little bit later on with the Leona stuff, trying to get a small trade or just get fully traded into, and trying to get up to 7 and just clear the board that way. It does look like Chad is debating trying to stop this Vi as well, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Vi is going to come on down here, going to be set up into some future turns. The only risky part is that there is a chance. Leona used to run. I'm not sure if they still do. Lists vary. They used to run Charms, so there is a chance that if John does have Charms, that the Vi could be taken into a Charm and then cleared up later on. But it looks like we did not hit it. We did end up hitting the Salvage. But John's gonna go ahead. All right, let's see if we can fix their hand a little bit. We're gonna go ahead, take this on Warrens, discard the Salvage, draw a card off top. Let's see what we hit. We do hit an On Guards. We have to go ahead and keep these units alive a little bit. Maybe buff up the Leona, maybe buff up the Clocker Keeper if we need to later on. And we can go ahead and sit there and try and move Leona into another battlefield. Attack, nothing to stun, sadly, because there is no defender on that battlefield. So there's nothing for Leona to stun. And we're just going to go ahead and it looks like pass the turn with a lot of runes open. We do have, I think, double Rune Prism. We have the Discipline. We have an On Guard. So a lot of good combat mechanics to try and prevent any of the units dying here. There's no way there could be a Vi Ride the Win combo to clear out any of these battlefields, because the way stun works, it doesn't work for any combat for the turn, if I'm not mistaken. As we're going to go ahead and have some card count happening here, see how much we want to cycle for the Vi and just try and get the Vi in for a gigantic swing. Thankfully, with Vi, even though she will be stunned, she won't end up dying to any of these, at least initially. And you can't react to an On Guard or anything like that with Ride the Wind. But we're just going to go ahead and start with the Ride the Wind off the front here, coming in for 8 damage, I imagine, on the Vi. And Vi's going to go into one of these battlefields. I imagine it's going to try and take out the Clocker Keeper first. Yep, that's exactly what it's going to be. So Clocker Keeper is going to end up fighting into the Vi. There is the question whether or not we want a Rune Prison here just to stun, and then the Vi will end up recalling and stay stunned for the rest of the battlefield, so we can't go ahead and take over this Leona, and that's exactly what's going to happen here. You're going to have this stun come on through with the Rune Prism, knock Vi back because the stun doesn't win, gets forced to recall because they are the attacker. And then just a double check, imagine happening is like, oh, is Vi still stunned for this turn? And yes, very much so. So now we're going to debate if we want to go ahead and try and get the 6 point another way. Maybe try and move something like the Noxus Hopeful, or even we could see a sacrifice of the Pouty Poro or Traveling Merchant here if we want to go ahead and refill that graveyard a little bit with a Traveling Merchant, discard a card, end up recycling, drawing 2 to discard again with the Noxus Hopeful. Because, I mean, we have only another Pouty Poro in hand, and we do have the Flame Chomper, so getting maybe the discard triggers won't be the worst thing in the world, but nope. Instead, we're going to go ahead and go on through here and try and set up with another battlefield take with the Noxus Hopeful. And we have a debate whether we want to discipline or stun it here. I don't think it will be the worst thing in the world to maybe try and set up a discipline to draw a card. I mean, give +2 might and draw a card here. See what we hit off the top, and then maybe Noxus Hopeful after. My instead, we're going to go ahead with Ride the Wind to clear up the Noxus Hopeful to recall as they're trying to get the unit off the battlefield. Now we're stuck in a situation here for Chad. And we are going to go ahead and, yeah, he said, hey, before we finish this battlefield, I'm going to go ahead and discipline up to 4 here, get this Clockwork Keeper big, and then the clear up the Noxus Hopeful, just to try and get that might off the board. And now Chad's trying to debate what we want to do. I mean, we can't just crash into this Clockwork Keeper anymore. This Clockwork Keeper is going to go ahead and be up to 5 power now because you do have the stun, given the buff because of Leona, and then we're going to go ahead and have that plus you from Discipline. So all you can really do as Chad is just try and reset up and try to take these battlefields maybe in a future turn. But this is where Leona shines. This is where Leona wants to be. They want to go ahead and start holding these battlefields now. They're going to buff up the units with all these stuns. These units now all have deflect because of Spirit's Refuge. And we're going to sit there and maybe see this Fiora going to come on down. Maybe the back up, the Clockwork Keeper that set up the extra might on this battlefield to buff it on up to 7. And then you can on guard it later to give it the might bonus. And yep, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to go ahead and see it on the battlefield. We're going to actually recall, though, the Keeper and set up with just Fiora on the battlefield, maybe try and trick it into an on guard ability, where then I'm going to go ahead and have deflecting all those keywords that just sit on Fiora when she becomes mighty. So we're going to pass the turn back over. John's feeling in a pretty safe position right now, trying to keep those runes open with a Defy, with an On Guard to try and deal with anything spell-wise that could come on down here. And we end up drawing a secondary Vi. Not exactly ideal. And we might, I wonder if we're going to start throwing bodies at the point just to cycle through. I mean, you could throw the Traveling Merchant into one of these battlefields just to try and get the move, trigger, discard a card, and then draw the refilter. But we're going to go ahead first, though, and see this Vayne come on down. Vayne's going to go ahead and get Assault 3 when it attacks. It is going to go up to a 5. But the best I can do is maybe go into the Fiora because of the fact that Leona does have tank. Leona is technically right now a 6 might unit when it's attacked into. So we have to keep an eye on that as well. And it looks like we're going to go ahead and see the recycle costs come on down, I think for 3? No, 2. So Vi is only a 5, but we're going to send 10 into this Fiora, trying to say, hey, there's no way you can have a third Ruin Prison right now. And I don't think you have enough spells in hand to get this big enough because Discipline is +2. On Guard's only at +1. So you can only buff it up into 4 and only be an 8 might unit. And we're going to go ahead and see the Zenith Blade come on down, though. Zenith Blade was that third card sitting in the hand. We're going to go ahead and make the targets. Let's see, what are we targeting here? What I think we're going into the Vi for one. I think we're going to head and stun Vi and then move. Yeah, we're going to move Leona on over to try and buff up this battlefield. It's going to end up being, looks like 11 might sitting on here. So we can clean up both these units. Vayne and Vi are going to go ahead and hit the bin and try and setting up a very strong position over here for John. And it looks like this entire match has ended up swinging around for Chad at this point. Chad's now on the back foot, set him in the driver's seat. We're going to go ahead and see the discard for Traveling Merchant to go ahead and discard, draw a card, and then end up getting the Flame Chompers onto the battlefield with the recycle cost and being able to take a point. But I mean, this Vi now has gank. Fiora, actually, sorry, not Vi, does have ganking, so you have to be a little bit careful on how you interact with these turns. And I think all we have left in hand now, I think that ends up being, I didn't see, is that another Flame Chompers in the hand for Chad? Are we just stuck with a Vi and Flame Chompers? Not the most ideal situation, I guess. But if you want to try and buff up this battlefield for Chad, I mean, you do have the point lead right now. You're up 6-4. So you will be able to just attempt to try and hold it for a couple of extra turns and see if that will benefit you and just try and play bigger. But now we're going to go ahead and just set up the Vi. Maybe try to set up a future turn here and see, just try and make John have it at this point. But what do we end up having? We do have an On Guard. We have the Defy. So we end up drawing another Leona. So there might be a situation that happens here where Fiora is going to go ahead and move with the ganking ability to get On Guarded. And if it's On Guard, it gets to go ahead and move on up to 7 might. And then it'll easily clear this battlefield. And it can even spend it if it wants for the Monastery buff to draw an extra card. Oh, we gotta be careful. Oh, we are just going to go ahead and on guard before moving. So Fiora is only going to be 6 might versus 7. I mean, granted, in this case, there's not too much Chad has. So we're going to go ahead and see that move happen. We're going to go ahead and spend a buff counter to draw a card. And we end up drawing into a discipline to try and keep this Fiora alive for an extra turn and anything that could come out here. And it looks like John's just going to say, hey, this is perfectly fine with me. I'm going to go ahead and hold these battlefields as much as possible and take control. And we're going to see the Clockwork Keeper help back up the Fiora and double Leona onto the Zon Warrens. And this might be all we wrote for game 1 now. There's not really much else that's I don't think there's much else that can happen over here on Chad's side. I don't know what's exactly in this Jinx deck, but I don't think Vi can get big enough. I think our discard pile is only 3 cards. We can only go up to 6. And we don't have a traveling merchant anymore to discard, and we draw into the third Vi. Isn't sadly the hand we're looking for. I mean, we could set up something probably with maybe the Chemtech Enforcer to get a discard trigger. We have 4, 5 cards to get up to an 8 on Vi. Uh, 4, 5, 6, 7, Discipline 9. I know there's no battlefield it can take over. But again, you're playing in the position as Chad. You're just trying to force your opponent to have it. I think you just say, "Hey, I'm going to force you to try and interact here with this board with my Vi. If you can, great." That's sort of position I'm stuck in. I don't see much else that can really happen or change. I don't think you want to resummon the Clockwork Keeper. I mean, the Flame Chopper. Sorry, if you discard it with the Chemtech Enforcer, because of the fact that you just keep that graveyard count low, and I don't think it'll be big enough to draw into. You might end up just discarding Vi with it. But let's see, what is the line of thinking? So we're going to go ahead and looks like set up with that Chemtech Enforcer first. Come on down, effect when played, discard a card. And I think we're going to go ahead and we are going to discard the Flame Chompers here. We're not going to pay the recycle cost of this to try and get that graveyard a little bit stacked so Vi can use her ability and get a little bit bigger. Now I think we're doing math of how big can we get. And like I said, I think we only have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9. Sending the 9 in just to try and take one of these battlefields, it looks like. I mean, like I said, you're still in the point where you do have the point lead. Oh, sorry, it is 5. So you're going for 8, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you're just going to try and hope and be like, yeah, 7 might, don't have it, please. And then see if we can get there at that point and try and hold for 7 into 8 because there's no other units on John's side and you should be able to get the hold. So we're going to go ahead and come in here for, looks like 8, 9, 10. So we do have 10 into 5, 6, 7, 9. So yeah, it looks like we're going to go ahead and attempt to take the hold here. Going to swing in with everything. Going to force the discipline out onto the Fiora. Going to head and draw a card, paying the 2, I'm about to say, for it. And yeah, that's going to go ahead and attempt to trade. More likely kill the Vi, kill a Pouty Poro. And a Pouty Poro will be able to hold onto the battlefield here with no other units on John's side. So it's going to go ahead and attempt to trying to hold, get that hold point up to 8. Unless John's able to deal with something, maybe a charm, maybe something like that to get the Pouty Poro off that battlefield. And we are going to go ahead and I think pass the turn. And there we go. We end up drawing a Fiora, not really helping. I mean, the only thing we can really do here, I imagine, is going to be Clockwork Keeper into Recycle Rune to draw a card and see if there's something else that gets out of it. I mean, you could see something like another Zenith Blade coming out if we have it. So we're going to go ahead and pay the 2, pay 1, end up doing the Clockwork Keeper, going to draw, and that only stuns a unit, so it doesn't get there, sadly. And that's going to be game number 1 going to Chad. Well played by Chad, going to be able to get it out onto the top foot here and holding off the Leona a little bit. That looked like a little dire near the end. Very well played. But with that being said, they're going to move on over into sideboards now. And with the sideboard, it's going to, let's see, what do we have here? So it looks like Battlefields aside from there, we end up having, I think I saw a Dreaming Tree and Grover the God, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to go ahead with the Dreaming Tree first. Let's see what else we have available for Jinx. Jinx usually plays Zomorn. We're going to go ahead and see Reaver's Row coming out, which makes sense as well. So that's going to be where we're going to set up for Battlefield side. Now let's go ahead and look and see what's available to us sideboard wise, if we're able to find out exactly what's happening. So Salvage is going to go ahead and coming out. I like it by John. John says, I don't even need to show you what I have. You know what's coming out. Salvage is usually sideboard out for game 1 no matter what anyway. So here, you can see I'm removing them. On Chad's side, we do have double Hextech, double Void Seeker. We have a Mega Death Rocket and double Fading Memories. And I think that's an inverted timeline, if I'm not mistaken. You might see inverted timelines come out and maybe Void Seeker come in. Oh, sorry, Fading Memories and Void Seeker come on in. That'll be the only way to deal with the bigger units, or Chad's just saying, no, we're not taking in anything. And we're going to see the salvage coming out. We're going to see, like I said, the other 2 salvage come out. We do have a Shen and another Leona in here. So that's going to come out, and we're going to get those units into the battlefield. Let's see. Hopefully, John catches it. I think John's champion is shuffled into the deck. And there is a chance you can go ahead and start without your champion. I think he caught it. I think that's why he's digging right now. He's going to go ahead and find his champion. Yep, there we go. All right, we caught the champion. Champion has been caught before anything happens. So good job on that one. Thank you. We don't have to have an awkward game 2. But players are going to go ahead and get shuffled up here. I hope everyone is enjoying the stream so far. I hope everyone's enjoying the first round match that we have for the Summoner Skirmish here at the Banish Zone. If anyone watching them know, let me know what cards are you excited about? Decks, champions cards, what are you excited about in our next coming set of Spirit Forge? I know that release is around the corner. I know the Banish Zone, we're going to go ahead and have a pre-release event for that as well. So let me know, what are you guys looking forward to that's upcoming? What's caught your eye? What are you looking forward to playing coming into the next sort of competitive season slash set? But as our opponent shuffle up here, like I said, this is a 24 player event. We are going to have, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it is 4 rounds of Swiss. Please don't quote me on that. I have always been horrible at doing player to round math, like absolutely atrocious. I'm pretty sure it's 4, if not 5. And then we're going to have a top cut afterwards as well. Like I said, we're going to be playing for that buy. There's about 1K in store credit for prizing available up as well. So, and get that nice and glorious Blitzcrank playmat and sort of showed off at your local, showed off at anywhere around that you were able to win. And then I want to see it posted on Twitter after, because that's where I get all of my news. All of my news for Riftbound people, it comes from Twitter. So please, if you want an after, tag me in it. I want to see photos. I love seeing photos of people winning and deck lists. But looks like the cut is going to come on out here. I imagine John's going to go ahead and go first, and they're going to be on the play, if I'm not mistaken. We don't have too much audio to fully tell exactly what's happening on that case, but we're going to go ahead and get this started here in a second. So you have to be, for those who don't know, Reaver's Row, you always have to be a little bit careful, because Reaver's Row is an activated ability on the stack that you get to go ahead and respond to with reaction spells. Sorry, on the chain, not the stack. And it has to be chosen also if you defend before anything else happens, unless your opponent decides to do like, oh, hold in priority, play a reaction to buff my unit. So you have to be a little bit careful on the timing with Reaver Joe. Make sure you don't mess that up or any form, shape, or way. But looking at the opening hand, we have Fiora, Leona, Zenith Blade, and Discipline over on John's side. On Chad's side, we have Ride the Wind, Pouty Poro, Vayne, and Scrap Heap. Interesting. The Scrap Heap stayed in. Okay. Usually I know those are usually cut for afterwards, but hey, I mean, if you're not running, if you're doing sideboard in game 2, it also makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead. We had, looks like recycle 1 on Chad's side, recycle 2 on John's side. John ended up drawing into a Blitzcrank and I think a Clockwork Keeper, so we're curving up pretty nicely as a whole. And then we're going to go ahead to Chad. I imagine he's going to see his Pouty Poro come on down here and just say pass. Oh, Vi could be an interesting one, but the question is, do you want to risk the sacrifice early? Because if you attack into a battlefield that's completely open by John with open runes, there's a lot of combat tricks. We're just going to say, go ahead. We're going to play our Vi early, set up a little bit early, and just go ahead and pass the turn on over. And John's John's going to draw into the second Leona. So we have all the Leonas, all the units available, and we might just see, it looks like this Fiora coming down here. Fiora's going to drop for 4, and this Clockwork Keeper probably going to move into, Reaver Joe. We have no runes available, so we get to go ahead and get the Conquer up to 1, and then if Vi attacks into the Clockwork Keeper, we can retreat it later on, since we don't have any runes open to use any of our disciplines or anything of the sort. And we ended up drawing into, I think, a second Ride the Wind for Chad. I'm pretty sure that's the second one. No, first one. Sorry, it was a Fight or Flight I was thinking of first. So imagine we're going to first attempt to show. No, we're going to go ahead for the Dreaming Tree. Maybe trying to get the ability to go ahead and get both points here, because you can go ahead and Ride the Wind this Vi back over to it. And that's exactly what's going to happen. So you're going to get to target the Vi with Ride the Wind and go ahead to draw a card off the Dreaming Tree, because it is the first time you're targeting an ally unit this turn with a spell. In this case, Ride the Wind. No reaction to come out. We're going to go ahead and draw a card, draw into a Noxus Hopeful, and Vi's going to move on over to Reaver's Row. Defender trigger is going to go on the stack, and we're going to go ahead and run on back here and pretty much get both points for Chad, taking an early 2-1 lead a little bit, and with able to run back again because of the fact it is untapped with Ride the Wind. So saved it from Fiora instead of having to worry about moving it later with the Reaver's Row and just pass the turn. So over on to John here. Go up to 6. Looks like, not sure why the Clockwork Keeper. Not sure why the Clockwork Keeper got pushed off to the side. Maybe he died. He didn't choose to use the defender ability. I'm not too sure why Clockwork Keeper is hidden over here. But we're going to go ahead and see the Fiora coming down with a Blitzcrank. We're going to grab that Vi up, bring it up to the combat front chain, and pretty much say, hey, we want Vi to die at this point. Use that Blitzcrank ability and pretty much get the Vi out the board so you can't do any more Ride the Wind shenanigans. And it looks like, yep, we are going to go ahead and gank it on up here and go ahead and get rid of it and pass the turn on over. And we'll go ahead and untap 2. And let's see what we end up drawing over for Chad. Chad ended up drawing a Draven. That's technically a 5-might Draven right now. We do have a Jinx in hand, the Pouty Poro in hand. So I can go ahead and take this Dreaming Tree, get up to point number 3. No way to really contest it just yet. Fiora is not mighty, so not able to be ganked over. No buffs or anything on Fiora right now. And the question is, what do we want to set up here? I imagine we're going to want to save maybe 2 runes open to Fight or Flight if the Fiora does get mighty after, which might be a situation that happens. So let's see what ends up happening. We might be able to set up, because of that, we might be able to set up with a Jinx if we want to go ahead and discard 2 and draw cards, or if we want to go ahead and with Pouty Poro. But I think this Jinx is the only one that's going to come down here. I don't think we're going to want to accelerate it. I don't think there's a need we want to accelerate this Jinx. At least not yet, because we get to, I mean, unless you want to take the gamble and hope that there's not an On Guard in hand from John, which is always a case that could happen. I mean, you can also Vayne if you really want to, but I imagine we're going to try and set up something here just to leave this Fight or Flight, just so we can have a case of reaction to leave our units alive as much as possible. And yeah, we're going to go see that Jinx come on down here. Jinx is not going to be accelerated, so Jinx is going to come on in for her normal 3 in a rune cost, and then we're going to have the Jinx ability go ahead and enter the stack. We're going to have to discard some cards to get ready and leave those 2 runes up for that Fight or Flight. So we're going to discard the Draven, discard the Pouty Poro, leaving in hand a Vayne and the Fight or Flight, and then pass the turn on over to John. We'll go ahead and recall that Blitzcrank back to hand due to its ability. Get our 2 runes ready at this point. And yeah, I guess the Clockwork Keeper died and didn't recall. So it looks like Clockwork Keeper is off the field. So let's see what ends up happening. We do have the Shen in hand as well if we want to go ahead and try and do any fun shenanigans. So we're going to go ahead though, and we're going to see the Blitzcrank debate if we want to go ahead and maybe set up with a Nexus Hopeful. Is yanking on over. We're going to discipline the Fiora first. The Fiora's going to go up to 6, going ahead and draw a card. And now that there's a chance that you can either stun the Nexus Hopeful or you can recall. So we're first going to go ahead and see the drag on over. We're going to try and gank on over to this Nexus Hopeful. Fight or Flight is going to go ahead and come on down. There is the debate if we want to bounce our own Nexus Hopeful activates to get to draw a card ability. But no, it looks like we are going to go ahead and target the Fiora. Fiora is going to be targeted here. Now the question is this just force a defy? I think we just force a defy here. Defy this Fight or Flight and get to go ahead and kill this Noctis Hopeful. Stuck with just a Jinx in hand. Yeah, exactly what's going to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and recycle a rune for defy. Going to sit down on this battlefield. We have 6 might. And then we can go ahead and Blitzcrank again and then drag this Jinx on up if we want to. And drag Jinx over to this battlefield and just pretty much kill the Jinx and just set up into that strong point we talked about before. We want to go ahead and just hold these battlefields, and we're going to go ahead and see a stun come on down through the shield bearer. Stun Jinx, 1 for turn, doesn't matter, but it does get the Fiora the buff counter to go up to 5 and become mighty on her own on the secondary card tricks to turn that ability online. Off the top here, though, we are reducing the Falling Star. So this is where some math comes in. Note the fact that Fiora does have deflect. Because she is mighty, she does not deflect now. So if you do Falling Star, you have to double target her and hope there isn't something to keep her alive. She is at 5. On Guard doesn't save her at this point because of the fact that she is not the only unit at the battlefield, so it would only get +1. So it'd be 6. And you do have to double pay for Falling Star. And it looks like he's like, hey, I didn't know it was a deflect, so let me, if you don't mind, walk that back, which he allowed. Because of the fact the way Falling Star worked, Falling Star gives 2 reactive abilities on the stack, and each instance is targeting the Fiora. And because each instance is targeting Fiora, each instance has to be paid for deflect cost. So the Falling Star end up costing 4. And it looked like we decided to do that anyway, it looks like. Maybe wanted to set up the Vayne first, but she's going to go ahead and attack in with the Vayne now afterwards, and Vayne's going to go ahead and clear up that Dreaming Tree. Jinx going to take the Reaver's Row, take 2 points ourselves, and then we're going to end up trying to clean it up here in a second. And looks like we're going to head on top. We do have a Shen in hand. We do have, looks like Leona is going to come on down here. This one's a little bit different than the usual champion one that they play with. So most vary between the green and the yellow Leona, but looks like we're going to go ahead and pay the have the regular Leona come on down from the green. Maybe debating what we want to use for the ability here. And let's see what ends up being targeted. I think right now we're reading cards, trying to figure out exactly what we want to do with the unit. So we're going to go ahead and go over where the vein is and end up taking that battlefield and get that situated, because the fact that the opponent is within 3 points of victory score, because Jinx is at 5 versus to 8, he gets to come in ready, and then gets to go ahead and take on over that battlefield, because the fact that Vayne didn't get the recall because we were tapped out, and take that unit off the board. So now looking at the hand over on Chad's side, what do we have? We have a Chemtech Enforcer with a Scrap Heap in hand. So we're going to go ahead and draw a card for discarding that, get the value back. Only down to 1 rune though, but it is 5 to 5. Get the 6 and the 5 going to be in John's favor on the pass back turn. But it's going to be hard to get off this Leona. Leona's going to sit on this battlefield pretty heftily, because the fact she does have also the ability of when some enemy to have -8 to a minimum of 1. So if you get a Rune Prison, you get to hold it. Keeping Shen up in hand as well. You get to go ahead and drop into turn. Get to drop into these hands. And we still have the Blitzcrank in hand. So we can just drag something like the Jinx over here to try and clear up this battlefield a little bit and just get rid of Jinx. And then the only thing left is the Chemtech Enforcer at 2 might. And just try and take it little bit by little bit, but you're going to have the whole point advantage. So I think that's what we're debating here. I think we're debating what exactly we want to do. We end up drawing to a Mystic Reversal, so you don't have to worry about any spells coming around next turn. You can just Mystic Reversal them. And I think we're set up in a position where John might be able to take game 2 here, and that we're going to see that Blitzcrank come on down. We're going to end up dragging the Jinx on over. Jinx is going to come on over. Jinx does have an Assault ability though, so Jinx does end up getting, I think Jinx is Assault 2, going to end up clearing up the Blitzcrank, which is fine because Leona is going to go ahead and die. And instead, yep, nope, that's fine. Damage coming down. I'm going to make sure we have all of our runes stopped for that. And then debate 5 more. And I don't think we're going to be in a horrible position here. I will say we have to be careful though, because it looks like Chad actually does have the point advantage. I was misquoted. I looked at the point wrong. So Chad could conquer up to 7. So we have to be a little bit careful on what we're doing. We have to set up probably some future turns here and just set up with something like a Leona or something like that to try and take over the battlefield that Chemtech Enforcer decides to sit at. And we're going to go ahead and drop a Shield Bearer, get the stun damage down onto the Chemtech Enforcer, just so we can buff Leona. And I think, are we just going to go ahead and see the recall? Just to try and set up for next turn and do a double conquer. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to see the double conquer strategy come on in, where we're going to try and take up both battlefields on the turn, because we got 6 points. Your opponent only has 1 unit, maybe 2 to get the fight through, and try and get through it that way. So let's go ahead and untap our 2 runes up to 3. We're going to hit another Fury Rune, all Fury Runes, so you don't have to worry about Ride the Wind coming out. But I mean, granted, it's not really much else to worry about. We do only have a Vayne and a Draven on board. The fact that we moved the unit off the battlefield for Geometry, Vayne doesn't get to come in ready. So this is a little awkward spot. I mean, you can set up a big hold. You can Chemtech Enforcer somewhere, say something like Dreaming Tree, or I guess Reaver's Row. That's what I really want to do. And then Draven in, and then Draven's going to have 9 might that you're going to have to fight through in order to take back this battlefield. So you're going to get up to 7 points for Chad. Chad's going to be able to then drop the Draven down, go up to 9, trying to double hold, just single hold onto this battlefield next turn, and just hope that John doesn't have anything to deal with it. That's pretty much what we're going to come down to, it looks like. And yeah, Draven's going to come down. We're going to be at 9. We have 11 points onto Reaver's Row at this point. And looking over at Chad's side, we only have 9 might of power on the field. So all we could really do is just attempt to clear up this Draven. But let's see what we end up hitting off the top here. So we're going to go ahead and channel our 2 runes. And then I have to reread what Shen yeah, because Shen... yeah, because Shen, playing time, import spells about resolve, include the battlefield you control. So let's see. We're going to go ahead and we end up hitting the Discipline off the top. We're going to give the +2 over onto one of our units, draw into a Defy, so nothing to worry about counter any types of spell damage. But granted, Chad's tapped out anyway. But we do end up now having 11 might to go ahead and try and retake this battlefield in an attempt to go ahead and just clear it up. But you have to be careful though of anything that gets accelerated as well, coming on over from Chad's side to take a battlefield into a hold. So to set us up a very specific way, and looks like we're just going to go ahead and move straight on in here with 11 onto 11. See if Chad wants to go ahead and do any type of abilities at that point, and we're going to go ahead and looks like flash Shen in with a reaction ability. So Shen's going to come on in. Shen has shield 2. Well, that's why when he's a defender, and he does have tank, so damage is going to have to assign to him first, and Shen gets to go ahead and come on into an ability, and we're going to sit there and have, it looks like, just enough damage to take off both these units. I imagine we're going to try and kill Shen's going to get damage assigned first, and then you can still kill the shield bearer, because you have 11 into 14. So it takes 3. So go down to 8 damage left. But you can't kill Leona. Leona's at 9. We might have a little bit of miscalculation. Maybe I'm miscalculating damage here, but I don't think the Leona should have been cleared because you had 11 damage on the battlefield. Shen is 3, so Draven does 3 damage to it. You're gonna be stuck now with 8 damage left. Leona was at 9 might, so I don't think you had enough to kill the Leona, which is actually huge. Let's see. I don't think I can get a judge quick enough for this. I don't think I can get a judge quick enough. I pinged, but I think there was a mishap here. There might have been a mishap. I don't think Leona should have died. Unless someone's watching. That's what I thought too, and you can't play Shen either. Yeah, we have a double mishap here. Because we did have a situation where Leona did end up having, so yeah, I mean, thankfully it worked out in the long haul. But I don't think there's anything that could have happened because Shen is an ability that says reaction to a battlefield you control. Thank you very much for catching that, Marcus. That's what I thought. I had to double check. But yeah, that Leona, though, I don't think should have died either. I mean, granted, if Shen's on the battlefield, they trade anyway. But that means that Vayne doesn't come in ready, though. So there's a couple of sequences of mishap that does matter in that situation. So that really changed the match. At least it is a little bit behind. I do have to ping the judges. I don't have a direct feed to the judges out there. I am remote. So it does take a little bit of a delay to get things situated in terms of everything fixed. So we do apologize for that. But that looks like is going to be around the run. It looks like Tiny Shed did end up taking both those games at this point.